Marvel Monday, and Teets and I are back. I hope all of y'all missed us. It has been a minute. Um, we're both no longer red. The red is kind of mellowed out to where we're just tan from our long weekend in Florida for my 21st birthday. But we're back. Our streaming schedule is resuming back to normal, and we are here because it's Monday. So it is another Marvel Monday. We actually have a bunch of stuff to talk about before we even get to the movie. But first, let's check in and say hi to Teets. Hi, Teets. How are you?
Doing well, doing well.
So, if you notice that Teets is distracted, he is watching his current favorite team playing current favorite sports, and it is the Wisconsin Badgers women's volleyball team is in like the semifinals of the
This is the regional final, so
championship.
this is the the Elite Eight.
Oh, okay. So it's not even like the final four yet.
Nope.
Okay. So also, Teets needs them to win and win the whole thing because he needs a women's national championship volleyball shirt
I
to go
do.
along with his most recent purchase of a women's hockey championship shirt. So, so well, I actually appreciate you as a feminist supporting Title IX and women's sports. It's crazy that you support these sports, and we're going to talk about it in just a little bit. Another movie filled with terrible women in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We'll get back to that. But we had, um, it seems like they like to drop stuff for us on Monday. So, what kind of Marvel news did we get today, Teets?
Well, we got a brand new trailer. I think this is actually the first trailer for Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings, I believe is the full title. And that releases later this year. That is a new story to the Marvel universe. We don't really know a whole lot about it just yet, unless you are, of course, into the comics. But I'm interested to see where they go with that.
And it's another really so today is the lead actor's birthday, and so that's why they kind of timed the release of the new teaser trailer for it. But it's just another example of the Marvel Cinematic Universe really going out of their way to be inclusionary um, with characters of all different ethnic backgrounds and stuff like that. So um, maybe we'll talk about that on a later episode. I think I'm about to just give Teets the login to my Marvel digital um, collection account so he can start reading some of these things. Mostly so he can read all the Black Panther stuff because I'm going to need him to be really on up and up by the time we get to that. So yeah, it was just a teaser trailer. It looks really exciting. It's really, really slick. Again, unless you've read any of the comic books, you're not going to know much about the character. But this is definitely something that is in the fourth cycle or your fourth circle, and just kind of how they are moving uh, Marvel forward after Endgame. Um, so kind of tie in with Thor, which we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes. I have one episode left of WandaVision, and I went to rewatch Thor last night, and my watching partner at one point thought we were watching WandaVision, and so that got real exciting. So I'm looking forward to talk about some of the crossovers, and you know, we'll take a look at the schedule. I think we still can probably combine all of both of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies into one kind of review show if we still want to make Black Widow happen when it hits the schedule. But um, yeah, I'm real ready to talk about WandaVision. I just, like I said, I have the last one. I'll probably watch it tonight. Um, and then I'm just going to dive straight into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So you're still watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, yes?
Yep, we got one episode left.
And your thoughts on that so far without being spoilery or anything?
Um, it's a lot of fun. It's maybe a little slower than WandaVision was, but it's different, and I think this is one that they are looking. I have heard they've been looking at multiple seasons with it, but it's not for sure yet. But I think this is one they could definitely do that with.
Yeah, and so just again, I haven't watched the last episode of WandaVision, but just kind of where they're going with everything, there's not room to, you can continue her on, but there's not room for WandaVision to go for another series or another season. Um, yeah, I don't want to talk about it anymore because I want to talk about. Hi, Josh. WandaVision is better than Winter Soldier, at least so far. How many episodes are you in on Winter Soldier? He's probably through almost all of them too. So, all right. And then kind of tied in with Thor again. So once Winter Soldier wraps up, we're gonna have about a month, and then we're gonna get the next series, which features one of the main characters from the movie we're discussing tonight, Thor, and it is Loki. And I can't remember if we had this trailer and we talked about it at all on our last Marvel stream. Um, we probably did because I think we really only spent about 5 minutes on Incredible Hulk just in general because that movie is terrible. Um, so I'm excited. I always have this opinion of Loki is, you know, he's not completely bad. He's more mischievous. He can be good when he wants to. He's not absolutely terrible. Rewatching Thor with who I was watching it with last night changed my mind on that just a little bit. But I'm excited to watch the series about him. Um, and then, do we know what comes out after Loki? Do we have any inclination? Because I
Um,
remember they announced like 100 different Marvels things.
yeah, I don't remember I don't remember what exactly is on the docket. I think, well, then that should really lead us into
Black
Black
Widow.
Widow. Widow should be next, but I think there isn't one more series later this year. I don't know if I don't remember if She-Hulk is this year or if it's next year.
Part of me wants to say it maybe at the end of this year, but you know what? They never really gave us like time frames or dates on when any of this stuff was going
Yeah.
to release because I think we got WandaVision and we were all really, really surprised at how quickly they announced Winter Soldier and or Falcon and the Winter Soldier and how quickly that came around. So, you never know what Marvel is going to drop on us, especially with them trying
Uh,
to get out so much
so
content on it.
I got the list now. So we
Okay.
have Loki, then that should be Black Widow, and then we go into the What If series that they're doing. So it's kind of
Okay.
like they're doing a bunch. It's basically what if this happened instead of this. And then we get Miss Marvel in October,
Yes.
and then Hawkeye ends the year.
And again, and Hawkeye is a series. So the funniest thing is if you follow Jeremy Renner on social media, like during the back, sounds like I'm a badger. Back during the like when the pandemic started, Jeremy Renner got in big trouble because they hadn't announced that they were doing a Hawkeye series yet for Disney Plus, and instead you're like he's out on Instagram and Twitter doing pictures of his chair that says Jeremy Renner Hawkeye on it. So the cat was out of the bag on that one. Hawkeye, I know lots of people think he's boring. Lots of people don't like the story. I am fascinated by Hawkeye, and I cannot wait. I think he is such a unique character because he's a ninja, but on top of that, he doesn't really possess any other skills other than being an ultimate fighter. He has a really checkered past, and he's really struggles with a bunch of stuff. But I am thrilled for Hawkeye. So this week we are continuing our chronological watching of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So far we have been through Captain America, the first Avenger, thumbs up. Captain Marvel, super thumbs up. Iron Man, Iron Man 2, and 2 weeks ago we discussed Incredible Hulk. So now up, I said, and I think I said on all social media, and I probably said it quite a bit last stream, that Incredible Hulk marks the end of probably the worst stretch of Marvel movies in this rewatch. Now, some people came at me on Twitter and said, no, there's one more, and that's this movie, which is Thor. So this we learn the backstory of Thor. But before we get started, Ryan, would you say this movie is terrible?
No, it's not terrible.
All right. Is it better than Iron Man?
No.
That's because you're biased. So we're going to do our typical kind of take you through a quick synopsis, walk through what kind of happens in the movie. Like I said, the next 20 minutes are going to be spoiler free, but when we start talking spoilers and how a lot of this relates to not only WandaVision, but the rest of the cinematic universe, we'll give you guys a heads up. And I'm going to let Teets take it away.
Okay, so this is another origin style movie released in 2011.
My mic just fell over.
So we begin with two astrophysicists out in a field in New Mexico.
Did you have to practice? Did you have to practice saying that?
No. You are quite loud now, though, by the way.
Oh, okay. It's because my mic fell over.
But so we have two astrophysicists and an intern. We have Jane Foster and Eric Selvig, and then along with Darcy Lewis is the intern, who we do see later on if you are a WandaVision fan. And they're out in New Mexico, which we have seen in previous films we've watched already. That's a recurring thing.
So yeah, where we left off, or essentially where we left off with Incredible Hulk, the post scene is they discover Thor's hammer in a big ass crater in New Mexico. That was the post. Was that post Iron Man 2 or post Hulk 2?
Iron Man 2.
Okay. Anyway, continue. So we know that we've been clued in that this is going to be an important place in New Mexico that we're going to.
Yep. And so something has been happening in New Mexico, and these two astrophysicists are trying to figure out what's going on, essentially. And something kind of happens. It's kind of like a storm-like happening, and all of a sudden a man appears at the bottom of this storm after it dissipates. And that was Chris Hemsworth, who is Thor. And at the time, obviously, the scientists do not know who the heck he is. They're like, what the heck just happened? There's just this random guy now. And then we jump back and we go back to Asgard, and we meet Odin and Loki and Thor, as Loki and Thor are children at the time that we meet them. And Odin who is their father, is talking to them, and basically that's kind of how we get the backstory of what Asgard is, who Thor and Loki and the whole situation. We get a little backstory there. And then we go fast forward again. Now we're back to Thor is an adult, and Thor is being recognized as he's supposed to be introduced as the crown prince and heir to the throne in Asgard. And then we get and during that backstory portion, we learn about these frost giants that are essentially the villain to their planet, or whatever you want to call it, universe. And they show up and kind of wreak havoc on the event. And so then there's a small battle that kind of, not really a battle, but the destroyer kills them or whatever, this kind of fiery metallic beast thing. And
so if we can, I want to stop here just real quick and go back to a little bit when we meet Odin, who's played by Anthony Hopkins. One thing that I think we see a lot of in these Marvel movies is there's a lot of daddy issues. We know Tony Stark has them with his dad, and his dad wasn't all that bad. His dad was just neglectful. In the case of Thor and Loki, and then Loki is played by Tom Hiddleston, who used to date Taylor Swift. they're brothers, and ultimately the really shitty dad, Odin, just does whatever he can do to pit the two against each other. And, Thor is always going to be the most outgoing and athletic and loves his dad and is ready, thinks that he's just ready to take over. It's his God-given right. He's a god. He's going to do whatever. He's done everything that he has to do. And even though he's basically done everything his dad has asked him to, his dad still favors Loki for some reason. And maybe it's just because ultimately Odin is a shitty dad and a real agent of chaos. But it's going to become important to watch the relationship between Thor and Odin, and basically between Odin and both of the boys. But yeah, if I think we're starting to see the pattern that if your parent is still alive in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially your dad, you probably have a really big issue with him.
Can't counter that one, but so back to so then we have Thor being the aggressive, godlike person that he is. He wants to battle everybody, and he's like, "Let's go fight the frost giants, because why not?" And Odin, of course, is like, "Hold up there, don't do that." But Thor sneaks off with his friends and Loki, and they head off to Jotunheim to fight the frost giants. And so they get there, and Thor's chatting with them, and then Loki's like, "No, let's be peaceful. Let's not do this, blah, blah, blah." And then the frost giant makes a comment about Thor being a princess, and Thor then goes off, and a battle ensues. So then throughout this battle, then Loki is in there, and we notice that Loki reacts differently to the touch of the frost giant. He is not like frostbitten by them like the others are. And so then the battle ensues, and a frost beast is unleashed, and Thor defeats it. And before they can all, because then at that point they are surrounded by an entire army of frost giants. But then Odin shows up and is like, "Let's not do this. Let's settle down and try to make peace." And the leader of the frost giants, Lofi, I think his name is. He was like, "Nope, war is now ensuing." So they venture back off to Asgard to get away and now prepare for what seems to be a war. And
so basically the young Asgardians effed around and found out what happens when you try to go be big boy, when you're not truly prepared for what the outcome of these kind of childish excursions are going to be. So needless to say, Odin, not thrilled. Not really happy at all.
yeah, so that's where when we get back, Odin is really upset, of course, and Odin's like, "Thor, you're in trouble. I'm taking your hammer and I'm stripping your powers, and you are being sent to Earth."
Yeah, so in the ultimate just crushing blow, he says, "You are not fit to be king." And this is after he does the whole speech prior to when he gives him the hammer, and it's something that we really won't see again until Endgame. But I squeed and rewound and watched it like 3 times when Odin tells Thor that only someone worthy will be able to hoist these weapons and use them. And so immediately when Odin is like, "You done screwed up, son, taking everything away, you're not worthy," takes the hammer, strips him of his magnificent suit of armor. That was actually a really cool scene where you just see it kind of just shake off like in scales. All of his protection is gone. All of his things that we previously understood him to be as a god, all of these amazing things are just completely gone, just essentially with the words of his father. So, not only did it sting him emotionally, but yeah, now he's real screwed because he's got nothing, and they are banished, and Odin is banishing him. Meanwhile, nothing happens to Loki, but Loki was involved in all of this too. Just keep that in mind as we keep going forward. So What happens next?
So then that's where we kind of go back to present day. That's when he's sent to Earth. That's where he lands on that storm situation, and the scientists find him. So they find him, and his hammer goes elsewhere, and we don't see the hammer till later, but so they're all kind of trying to figure out who the heck Thor is, and Thor's speaking like a crazy person, and they're like, well, what are we supposed to do? So they took him to the hospital, and he tries to break out of the hospital and all these things. And then they try to break him out of the hospital because they're trying to figure out, well, what the heck was that phenomenon that happened? And I'm blanking now on I wrote her name down. Jane Foster, the
Jane.
she likes to run him over, I guess, with her truck. That's like her thing. She's also going to be his love interest in this film, because we all need a love interest.
What? Huh?
So
also, I just want to say the male Avengers are really terrible at picking women. Terrible. We're 0 for 3 right now. There's not a redeeming one out of the entire group. But continue.
I also just want to add, because I know everybody's in suspense. Wisconsin just won, so I can breathe now. Anyways, back to Thor, and then we see the hammer again. The hammer is now in this crater where we saw it at the end credit scene with Colson. And there's a bunch of guys from New Mexico that are trying to pull this thing out because they think, why not? I can pull this hammer out of here.
Like pulling the sword out of the stone at Magic Kingdom.
And this is where we get our Stan Lee cameo. He hooks up his truck to the hammer and thinking, oh, this will get it out. And no, it doesn't. So then we get Colson again. Colson arrives, and he's all like, we got to take everything in here and close everything down. And he comes in, he starts confiscating all of the stuff from Foster and Selvig, and everything's kind of on lockdown then. Then we kind of do a flashback again to Asgard, and Loki is growing increasingly curious about or I should say, at this point, he probably knows more about himself than they kind of lead on in the movie, but he
we need to take a 20. So have we got to the point where Clint Barton is trying to shake down Jane? And Thor sees the hammer and tries to lift it, but he can't because he's apparently not worthy still. This is before Colson starts taking everything away, right?
I thought he didn't get to the hammer until they had it on lockdown.
All right.
Yeah, because they had it all. Colson had the whole thing surrounded. So that's a little further. We're not there yet.
Sorry.
So then we learn more about Loki, and we learn that Loki is not Odin's blood son. Loki is essentially adopted. Odin found him and took him in, and that is why he reacts differently to the frost giants. And this is where then Odin falls into a coma-like sleep and is essentially dead, but not dead. He's still alive. He's just in a coma or whatever. And then we go back to Colson, and he's got everything on lockdown. And then we keep bouncing back and forth between what's happening in New Mexico and what's happening on Asgard. And then Loki becomes acting king because Thor's gone and his father is sleeping. So then Thor's friends are like, we got to do something. We don't, this isn't working. And so
it's very specific. Thor just has 4 friends. Thor's 4.
And so they are like, let's go find Thor. And then we go Thor. So then this is where then Thor and Jane Foster try to break into the little like military base that they have created around this hammer because they're trying to figure out what the heck the hammer is. And Thor breaks in and beats a bunch of people, and Colson's like, well, what the heck, this guy's got to have some sort of military training or whatever. And this is where we get a little glimpse. We see Hawkeye for the very first time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He is up in like a lift with a bow and arrow, ready to shoot Thor whenever Colson gives him the green light. But although he never ends up shooting Thor, Thor does get in, tries to pull the hammer out, and he cannot, because at this point he is not worthy. And then they arrest Thor. And that's where, and Colson interrogates him. Colson's like, you got to be from like Serbia or some foreign country, and you're trying to, do something. So then Selvig comes back, and he's like, this guy is one of us. He's just drunk and whatever. So they break him out, and Thor is then free. And then we go back to Loki, and Loki is off to Jotunheim, and he's making a deal with the Frost Giants that he's going to get them into Asgard and kill Odin. And because we know now we're kind of getting a lot more that Loki's a lot more mischievous than maybe initially thought, because that's Loki. And so we learned that Loki was the initial person to let the Frost Giants in back on when Thor was getting introduced as the crown prince. And Loki is then wants to let them in and kill Odin. And then Loki also wants Thor killed on Earth. So he sends the Destroyer from Asgard down to Earth to try to kill Thor. And so then we kind of get we're kind of like building up to the final battle scene of the film. And Thor works to save the town and the people, and of course Jane, because we got to save Jane because he's in love with Jane now. And but I forgot to mention, Thor's friends are there at this point, so they're all part of this whole plan to, save Jane and save the people of New Mexico and whatever town they are in New Mexico.
Probably Albuquerque.
So Thor confronts the Destroyer, which Colson at one point thought this is just something Tony Stark created, because of course. He is hit by the Destroyer and is seemingly killed or whatever. But at this point, then this is where he has redeemed himself, because he's saved all these people. He's trying to be a good person, and he has restored his godlike features, and the Thor Mjolnir, or the hammer Mjolnir, is returned to him, and he basically awakens as a god again.
Thank God.
And so we go back to Asgard, and Loki has let the Frost Giants in. Loki goes in to try to kill Odin, but then Loki turns around and kills Loki because Loki wants to kill him or whatever. I don't know. Loki's got this whole plan, but it doesn't really work out, because why would it? Because it's a movie.
Loki wants to kill Loki to appear like he's the hero to his father, basically showing that I can be just as godlike and just as heroic and loyal to you, even though secretly I put you in this position. Now that you've, in the whole Odin sleep thing and everything, I can be loyal to you. I can be Thor. I can do all of these things, even though I'm not truly your son. And so that, yeah. There's a lot of, you don't watch Succession, but there's a lot in this movie that is really common with Succession, which is a great TV show on HBO. But yeah, sibling rivalry really stinks when there's a crown to be worn at the end of it, and a boss level to achieve. So that's why Loki does it, is because he wants to ultimately prove to Odin that he can be a hero, and he is super loyal, and he would protect him and honor all of these things that Odin wants. How'd that work out?
Well, I did want to mention, because I did forget somebody that is kind of important in this whole situation is Heimdall, who is like the gatekeeper to Asgard. He is the one that like if you want to leave or get in, you have to go through him. And so he's the one that when Thor's friends left, nobody was supposed to leave because Loki didn't want anybody to leave, but Heimdall kind of just walked away and let them leave. And
you know who that is, right? You know who plays Heimdall?
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name again. I'm not good with names.
It's Stringer Bell.
Yeah, I'm
Idris Elba.
Yes, there we go.
Stringer Bell. That's who it is. I'm trying to get Teets to watch The Wire.
I've watched like 8 episodes at least.
Do you love it?
It's good. I don't know.
It's like branching out. Anyway, okay, keep going.
Anyways, so then we get there, and then so Thor is now returning back to Asgard, and he confronts Loki, and Loki and Thor kind of battle it out. And then they're on the bridge, and Thor decides, I'm going to destroy this bridge that is essentially their gateway to the rest of the universe. And at this point, he destroys the bridge. Their little like teleportation thing or whatever it is destroyed. And Loki in this whole thing, Loki then kind of disappears, and Odin reawakens at kind of the same time. And that's kind of the end. We're kind of left off with that.
Well, yeah. So like when the bridge falls, so the ultimate, this is again, sibling rivalry sucks. Loki does all these things thinking that at the end of the day, Odin will save him, but no. Who does Odin catch? He catches Thor, who's holding Loki's staff. That's why Loki leaves, because Loki lost. He's never going to live up to, because he's not the real blood son of Odin, and all that. And I think Thor truly believes that Loki is dead.
Yeah.
So, of all things, Thor is only capable of like 3 simple emotions. I love Thor. I think he's fantastic. But I think he's only capable of 3 simple emotions. It's like happiness, anger, and sadness. And there's not a whole lot to fill in there. So he knows Loki is a real piece, but he's sad to see his brother go. He's sad about how everything went. He's sad, I guess, that his dad picked him. He's sad that his dad had to pick him. He's a very very simple man, except for those abs. That's a 12-pack. He could just wear that T-shirt that he wore for half the movie all the time. I understand why Jane fell for him. No idea why he fell for Jane. None. He's terrible. Terrible.
Anyways, end credits. We get our friend Nick Fury back.
Woo!
So Selvig meets Nick Fury in some underground tunnels or whatever at SHIELD headquarters. And Fury's like, there's some more stuff going on here. And he opens this briefcase, and inside is the Tesseract, who, of course, has shown up in several other movies at this point. But off in the shadows is an invisible Loki, and he sees the Tesseract, and he's like, oh, I wonder what I could do with that. So, and that's where we're left off, and that's the end.
So, when was the last time you watched this movie prior to watching it for this stream?
It's probably since the first time I watched it, which was probably, I mean, it's
like
been a long time.
Like in the theater or whatever with Grandma Teets?
Probably. It's been a while. I don't think I've rewatched it at least in a long time. So
this one is really great because so the next movie we're going to watch and talk about next week is the first episode of the Avengers, and it literally picks up like the second this movie ends. So that's really cool. I love it. I don't know why people think it's terrible. I don't know why they think it's worse than like Iron Man 2, which could have just been 30 minutes tacked on to Iron Man 1. There's no way it's worse than Incredible Hulk. I
Yeah, it's definitely
appreciate
not
all.
worse than that.
And listen, I'm not a big fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So, I've kind of been swayed. I didn't mind them at first, but I've kind of been swayed by the person I watch these movies with, and he just thinks they're massive F ups and they just ruin everything. And then now when you watch like all of the in Infinity War and Endgame, and it's just like Star-Lord, stop screwing everything up. First you screwed up Epcot, or first you screwed up the universe, and now you screwed up Epcot. Come on, Star-Lord. Not being like, can you just do one thing right? I really enjoyed this one. I think it was a great insight. I think we really could have done without all of the Jane stuff. Absolutely done without all the Jane stuff. Hear me out. Because you really didn't need that romantic interest, because the just character development, the just character profiles and the development and the roles that they'll all play down the line between Odin, Thor, and Loki are just so deep and rich. And it's like Loki, this goes back to why I say that I don't believe Loki is a bad guy, but it's more mischievous bad than like Thanos bad. Like he wants to get his place because he can't get it rightfully because it's not his. At the end of the day, I don't think he wants anything bad to happen. Like, he doesn't want to hurt Thor. He probably wants to hurt Odin, but he doesn't want to do anything bad to Thor because Thor's never done anything ultimately untoward to him. So you could have stripped an hour out of this movie with all the Jane crap and just focused on all that kind of stuff. The sibling rivalry, the double dad, all of that. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree?
I agree. Yeah, I think they could have done without the Jane stuff.
Which she's getting to come back for another movie.
It's just how Marvel works.
Does Natalie Portman need a check? Is that why this is happening? She's made a lot of movies. Does she really need to recreate this role? Like, can she not just do another ballet movie or something that will actually get her nominated for an Oscar?
Marvel money, that Marvel money, that's a lot. That's different. You got to be in that part of that $1 billion.
Teeth, she has an Oscar. Name any other person in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that has an Oscar. Oh, I know. It's an actual powerful female. Anyway, I do not think it's a terrible movie. I actually really like it, even though I just said I would cut an hour out of it. It does have a pretty short runtime compared to, it's only 114 minutes. It comes in at the Keels bonus time of under 2 hours. If you're under 120 minutes, I'm guaranteed to like you, especially if you're a superhero movie. A superhero movie or a disaster movie, under 2 hours, I will like you. I just love the character of, even though I said he's a simple guy, I just love the character of Thor. And I think Chris Hemsworth is so great. He is just Thor personified. And I don't think, all right, we're going into spoiler territory. We got to see a little bit of the humor that the character has. We'll start to see it in the Avengers movie, and we will for sure see it in his next movie, Ragnarok. He is just the funniest. The writing for his character, I think, is the best out of all of the Marvel characters. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Thor isn't my favorite, obviously, I have no issues with him. He's never been like one of like top Marvel characters. I don't know.
I think he's great. Like I said, like Ragnarok is a top 3 movie for me. So it's I can't believe you like Iron Man more than Thor. I don't understand. I can't wrap my brain around it. Tony Stark is such a dick. At least Thor is nice and good and true and honest. Well, that'll all come out when we get to Civil War anyway, so. But yeah, so Loki, we're going to see Loki again next week when we hit up the very first installment of the Avengers. We're going to see Loki quite a bit throughout the rest of this cinematic universe until Infinity War. Because that's the opening. Is that the opening for Infinity War? Yeah. Because the opening for Endgame is Hawkeye. So the opening for Infinity War, we're going to see Idris Elba's character again and Loki with Thanos. So we know who Thanos is super, super afraid of, and that's Thor. WandaVision. So yeah, who I was watching it with last night was Thoughts when he saw Kat Dennings, the what's her face, Darcy.
Yep, Darcy Lewis.
Darcy Lewis, that character. For a split second, he thought I was watching a WandaVision episode he hasn't seen yet. It's like, no. She's where we're at. She's still trapped in the circus bubble. This is different. So that is really cool. Trying to tie all of the sword and shield stuff together. But I want to talk about Colson for a hot second and shield. For this group that is supposed to be tracing all of these superheroes and people with all these special talents and all their massive weapons and all these things, boy, they're really shitty at keeping them protected. Like everyone can break in and get stuff. Everyone that's in a cell can break out and go and do whatever. How does Colson keep a job?
That's a good question. I would think part of it is you have a bunch of superheroes which you've never dealt with before, so they're not really sure how to handle these people. They can't just be held like normal fugitives, I guess. So I guess they have to refine their techniques as time goes on.
That sounded like you were just doing crisis PR for Colson and S.H.I.E.L.D.
I do like Colson. And I used to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I kind of got out of it. It kind of fell off for me. I do kind of want to go back and finish it, but
yeah. So Thor character, obviously we know he's very, very important in the Avengers world. He is the one, well, at this point, he is the only one and truly worthy person to operate some of the weapons at his disposal, namely his hammer. We'll come to find out that there is one more. He suspects right away that there is another member of the Avengers who is also worthy based on the sacrifices that they give to save the universe, save the country, save everything. But that's probably really obvious. But again, if y'all haven't seen Endgame, come on. It's like the kickoff of the best 20 minutes of movie is there. So I love Thor. I'm really interesting to see. So where do the Loki series, they are starting it like basically current Avengers Day, right? So it's going to be basically post Endgame, correct?
I believe it bounces around a bit, so it's not 100% current day. So so it does take place after Endgame, but I believe from what they've said and what we've seen in trailers, it kind of bounces around a little bit.
Yeah, so I think it's going to fill in some spots because, like, we're going to see him. He gets real wheels off next week in Avengers. And we see a lot of that stuff again in Infinity War. And then again in Endgame when they have to revisit all of it. Let's see. I'm looking to see if it says anything. It probably just fills in a bunch of gaps. But he does like to just shift around on stuff. So who's the worst dad? It's obviously Odin, right? So far, Odin's just a jackass.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean Howard Stark isn't great either, but yeah, Odin's probably worse.
Do we want to talk about the whole eye thing?
If you want.
So Odin only has one eye, and eventually Thor will only have one eye.
And we have to mention Thor is getting another movie. He's not just done after the 2. He is getting another one. Thor, Love and Thunder.
Got to bring Jane back. Gotta bring Jane back. No, and I'm interested to see what that's going to be because it's obvious. This is the only one that's questionable to me because Thor, in the realm of the comic books, I don't think ever crosses outside of the Avengers to do something. I don't really need to see like a rom-com. I need to see a buddy movie with him and Rocket. That's what I need to see. I'd rather see Thor, Love and Thunder, and it's him and Rocket, not him and Jane.
I'm excited to see where they go with this one because Taika Waititi is directing it, and I love Taika, so I'm interested to see what happens.
What's the last movie he directed?
Well, the last shows he directed was some Mando episodes, so.
I'm listening. I'm waiting.
I don't. Well, he did Ragnarok.
He directed Ragnarok, dum dum.
What?
He directed Ragnarok.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if you're that. I mean, he's directed other movies too, so I didn't know if there was some other movie you were looking for there.
No, he directed Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But all this, I don't need any of this Mando crossover stuff into my world. No. You keep your Star Wars to your independent channel. This is a Marvel stream. We don't talk Star Wars here. So next week, we're looking forward to the Avengers. And I love this movie. It's probably the first Marvel movie I saw in the theater. It's really cool. We're going to see them all the first time together. We're also going to see the Incredible Hulk that's not Edward Norton. Weird, right? What are your thoughts on how all this is lining up? Because Thor came out way later than the rest of the other movies. I want to go look up and see when Avengers came out.
Yeah, I mean, so far, obviously, this phase 1 has been a lot, or this first set of movies that we've done. They're not all part of initially phase 1 of the MCU, but the way we're watching them, they're all basically origin stories and just kind of setting up each individual character as we go along through this rewatch. So I don't think this one had as much kind of tying into the other movies we've watched so far. Obviously, the end credits probably is the biggest part that has kind of tied into what we've already seen, but otherwise the movie itself didn't have a whole lot.
Yeah, so Avengers, which we're watching and talking about next week, was released in 2012 before Thor, which was 2013. So
Thor was 2011. Right? Wasn't.
You want to double check that?
That's what I had written down. I had it on the Marvel Wiki page or whatever.
2013.
Thor. Says release date, Thor, 2011, May 6th, 2011.
Avengers came out after. Or Thor came out after, because Thor is not in Avengers. He's mentioned.
I'm just telling you what the wiki says.
Listen, pal.
May 6th, 2011. And Avengers is 2012. The first sequel, Dark World, was 2013. Is that what you're thinking of?
Maybe. Yeah, but Thor's not in. I don't think Thor is super in the OG Avengers movie. Good thing I'm going to watch it.
I mean, he is in the movie artwork, so I mean, I would assume he's pretty much.
We've been through this.
I mean, it has been a while since I've seen that movie too, so.
Yeah, no, because that's when Loki, they have to go. Loki comes into the staff, and they have to fake to steal some stuff. This movie takes forever because it is 4 hours long. The Avengers is 3 cans of wine long.
143 minutes.
See? It's over 2 hours, which means 4.
Just wait till we get to Endgame.
I watch that every week. Are you kidding? I'm going to put that on as background noise in just a minute when we finish this. Actually, I start from where Cap on your left. Actually, well, that's where I used to start. Now I start from when they first, and Thanos is just waiting out he's going to have his helmet. I'm just going to take a sit on this one, and it's Thor, Captain America, and dumb Iron Man come out. Think they can just take Thor down this way, and that never works. And then you get, that's when you get the I knew it moment, which is amazing. And then you get Cap on your left with Sam, the Falcon. And then literally the best 20 minutes of Marvel. You don't need to watch the funeral because you don't need to give Pepper Potts that dignity. She doesn't need it. She's fine. What? She's
Nothing.
Terrible. She's terrible. She's terrible. Any last thoughts on Thor?
No. I think it's fine. It's nothing. I mean, it's not at the top of my list, but it's not at the bottom either. It's a middle of the road type movie for me.
It's not a terrible movie. I mean, it's not a terrible movie. Also, Thor Dark World is not bad. It's important in the Age of Ultron thing. So let's just pump the brakes on talking trash about.
That wasn't me. That was John.
Let's just pump the brakes on that. All right. So some quick things. If you guys are watching us on Twitch, just hit that purple follow button. If you are watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe and the bell notification. Some other shows we've got coming up this week. Courtney and I are back for Wind Down Wednesday on Wednesday, and we're going to be talking a little trip talk. I have an actual special edition stream that I'm doing with Mr. Worldwide. We're talking movies in advance of the Oscars, and we are going to be going down the wormhole that is Midsommar and the biggest theories about that one. So we'd love to have you guys join us. That's going to be on Thursday, I think at 9. It's going to be late night, but we'll have it rebroadcast on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to watch it here on Twitch too. And then I'm hoping the whole crew can get together on Sunday, and we are going to talk about our trip. It was a really fun one. We were there some of us were there for almost a week. We hit up Universal. We were at Disney. We stayed on property, off property, on property, all sorts of things. So, bunch of new restaurant experiences, a lot of brunches, a lot of costumes, a couple hangovers. So it'll be a fun time to review a lot of the stuff that we did and give you guys some tips heading into the spring/summer season of going to Disney and Universal with these kind of crowds. It was hot. It was really, really hot. Oh, so we got a rain day. It hasn't rained on me at a park in forever, but we got a rain day.
Don't say you didn't even go in the park that day. Well, Epcot, it rained a little bit, but I'm talking Sunday. You didn't even, when it really rained, you didn't even go in a park that day.
Sure didn't. I was wearing my Air Force One. Or no, I was wearing my Jordans that day. I wasn't going to listen. Do you know what those are on the black market? I wasn't going into Magic Kingdom to puddle step in those bad boys. Plus, I had to watch the Masters.
Before we wrap up, do we want to mention at all Avengers Campus, because we haven't been on in 2 weeks, that we finally got an opening date for Avengers Campus over at California Adventure in Disneyland. Disneyland opens in 11 days, April 30th. So we get that, but Avengers Campus will open June 4th to the general public, and
For right now, we're not sure if by that point in time, if you will still only be allowed to go if you live in California, but we'll see. I have a West Coast correspondent that will be out there. I think he's going the weekend before. That's the day he booked his ticket for.
Well, maybe there will be some soft openings, so we can be hopeful there. I mean, the land is basically done. They just have to take down the walls, which we did get some actual imagery of, and they showed off the new Doctor Strange area that looks pretty dang cool. It's supposed to be more like a showy type experience thing, not just a meet and greet. So I'm interested to see what that looks like in its full form. Then, of course, we have the Spider-Man web slinging attraction. And then we have Quinjet that will be the gateway to the e-ticket attraction that may never actually get built, but the Quinjet's there.
Sounds like you got some hot opinions. Yeah, because what's the e-ticket supposed to be? A roller coaster?
No, it's supposed to be something they've never done before, and you're supposed to be flying. You're supposed to be essentially in a jetpack type thing, and you're flying. So I'm kind of thinking like Soarin' meets jetpack something.
It's gonna be stand-up flight of passage is what it's gonna be.
Probably.
That's 100%. You're gonna have to go in your arms and stand on a little platform, and it's gonna fly you around like that. It's gonna be stand-up flight of passage. You heard it here first. Breaking news. But yeah. No, I'm excited, and it gives a great home on the West Coast. I absolutely love Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. The way Tower of Terror was constructed there, it's basically just an up and down. It doesn't have the hallway drive-through that Tower of Terror on the East Coast has. So this is actually really fitting. And during the Halloween season, they do something really cool called Monsters After Dark, where the whole thing is just pitch black with different songs, and you have to go save Groot because he's about to be eaten by Lord knows what monsters have escaped in there. So it's really, really cool and what they've done. I'm a super fan of Guardians. Actually kind of prefer it to Tower of Terror at Disney World, but y'all can come at me on that one. I'll allow it. But so for me and Teets, I think that's it. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Next week is the Avengers. I'm excited. It's going to be good. We're going to kind of see everything tied together, and this will wrap up basically the first circle/cycle of Avengers movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then we'll move on to some more things. But got anything else, Teets?
Nope,
Any other
that is
news
it.
you want to drop on us?
Not really. I mean, I guess just keep following CrescentLakeClub.com. We have tons of stuff coming out there. So
Yeah. So don't forget to hit the purple follow button here on Twitch. Hit the red subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the bell for some notifications. Be sure to bookmark our site. Ryan and the rest of the club do a great job on our blog, and that's crescentlakeclub.com. If you don't follow us on social media, please do. We've got lots of stuff. We're going to have more videos and different restaurant reviews and things coming up from our big trip last weekend. But again, thank you guys so much. I will see you again with Courtney on Wednesday. We're going to talk some travel stuff. We may go live on, when is the Disney Wish announcement?
next Thursday.
Okay. So yeah, so be watching for that. We may go live to talk about that just a little bit. But this Thursday, if you like movies and you want to talk about Midsommar, we're going to be around doing that. But again, thank you guys so much. And until next time, we'll see you real soon.